Hello everyone! I'm just about to be joined by the brilliant Blair Nelson, aka Fab Fertility. We're going to be talking all about how to keep positive and happy whilst going through the emotional roller coaster of fertility treatment or just trying to conceive naturally. So I'll just see whether she's joined. And if anyone has any questions or they want to ask Blair or myself anything whilst we're chatting, then away. Adding Blair in now. So I'm in London and she is in Texas. So we're just waiting for the connection to work. Blair has the most incredible podcast, but we'll talk about that in a minute. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Not bad, thank you. We made the time
Good.
work. I'm pleased.
We did. Yay.
Yeah. I've just been doing a brief introduction about you, but now you're here, why don't you just tell everyone who's joining a bit about yourself, and then we can start just having a chat about what's going on.
Okay, awesome. Hey, everybody that's listening. I'm so glad that you're here. My name is Blair Nelson, and I have the infertility Instagram account, Fab Fertility. I started that in October of 2018 after I suffered a miscarriage from our second frozen embryo transfer from our first round of IVF. And really, I just started it to find community and just support, really. I felt very isolated, alone. Nobody in my immediate world was going through what we were going through. And as great as husbands are, they aren't exactly always the best people to talk to about all of this. So, I just really needed some girl support. So I got on Instagram.
And what I love about your Instagram account and your podcast is that you say just because we're talking about fertility doesn't mean that it can't be fabulous. And I love your positivity and your energy, and your Instagram account is one of my favorite because it says what everyone's thinking, but it's said with such a great tone that where you're like, hell yeah. It's really inspiring.
Well, thank you. I mean, like I said, I started my Instagram just to find support. And then really, I just got so inspired by the community and just the overwhelming sense of support that I got, and all of the women that are just willing to rally behind one another. And so, once I kind of grappled with and dealt with all the emotion around the miscarriage and was able to move past that a little bit, not that it ever leaves you, but I just really became super passionate about this community. And I kind of changed my account from this kind of personal account where I was behind the scenes seeking support to, hey, I could really help all of these people. I've gone through a lot of testing, a lot of IVF. And so I should share what I've gone through in hopes to help other people the way they've helped me. And then I started my podcast about almost a year ago, and Ellis has been a guest on that. And then I started a website and a blog, and it's just kind of all gone from there. So, but it all started with people like you all listening who supported me through a really hard time.
Amazing. And it is the most fabulous community, isn't it? Have you found it difficult writing and updating people when you're going through it yourself? Are there ever times when you feel like, do you know what, I can't talk about this today because it's too hard?
So yes and no. So for me, being open and sharing everything that I'm going through has been, it almost forces me to deal with the emotions that are presented to me in any given situation. So, I mean, if I get bad news, for example, last cycle when we found out that none of our embryos were normal, I didn't share that on Instagram that day immediately. I typically, I don't know, if it's bad news that I have a hard time with, I wait a couple of days. I still give myself the time to deal with it, process it. But I still really want to be real and authentic. So like if I feel really hurt and I feel really sad, I want people to know that. However, I do want people to, I got this advice early on my journey, and I always say this now, is try to limit the time that you spend giving yourself a pity party, for a lack of a better term. It's like, we don't have any choice but to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, I give myself a day or two. I'm upset, but then I try to move forward and I try to see the positive in it. And so that's what you see a lot of on my Instagram is me. I might post about being upset, but then, I always try to provide a like lesson learned,
Mm-hmm. You
lessons
always have a
learned for me,
plan.
like this.
You
Go
always
ahead.
have a plan, which I think is so important. And you might come on to talk about that when we talk about coping techniques. But do you find that when you have these awful hurdles, the next thing is to say, okay, we're here, we're done with that part. What's next?
Yeah, so for me, yes, I think the hardest thing for me is lack of control and the waiting. And I feel like when I have steps in place for what comes next, I feel a lot more calm, like I'm in control. Like I can look forward to something, if that makes sense. So,
Mm-hmm.
If we have a failed cycle, yes, I'm mad, I'm sad, I'm angry for like 24 hours, but then I'm like, you know what? What's next? Because once I
Mm-hmm.
know what's next, I can plan for that and I can look forward and I can leave this behind, because
Yeah.
stressing over it does nothing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
not saying you should put stress away and not deal with it, but acknowledge it, do what you need to do, and then yes, I have found moving forward and making, plans for next steps really helps.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with that more. And I also think that speaking to your friends, speaking to people who can give you that support is absolutely key, isn't it?
It is. And, I think that one really important lesson that I've learned and something that has helped me immensely is, there are people in my life who want to support me, like my friends that are actually here in the city that I live in, family. Not all of them understand what I'm going through.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, they're not going to be able to fully grasp what I'm feeling. And that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. And I used to want them to understand. I used to want them to feel like, give me the support that I was craving. And that only comes from someone that's been through it. And that is why this community is so amazing.
Yeah.
People come to me all the time and they say, I'm really thinking about starting an Instagram account about my fertility journey, but I'm scared, or I'm not public with my journey. What do you suggest? And what I suggest is start an anonymous account.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to put your name out there. You don't have to put any pictures of yourself, but having a fertility account and a space for that, where you have a whole different group of people who understand what you're going through, has helped tremendously, because
Mm-hmm.
I lean on this community for that. And then of course, like, my friends still support me and they still ask me questions, but I'm not putting that burden on them because they don't understand. And you only have your own perspective, right? So yeah,
Um,
that's really helped me.
I just did a poll. I did a survey actually for an upcoming article about how a fertility struggle impacts people's relationships, not just romantic relationships, but friendships as well. And the overriding thing that came from so many people around the world was this feeling that their friends feel like they're a burden on them. And they feel like or even their family, they can't talk about it because they may have talked about it the week before last, and therefore it's going to be a burden, it's going to annoy them. And that's such a difficult headspace to be in, when you may want to be
It
private about
is.
it, but you may want to scream from the rooftops and say, shake them and say, listen to what I'm having to deal with here. You don't understand.
Well, and when you're on your infertility journey, it's all encompassing. It's all you think about. You feel like you're living and breathing these treatments, and it's your whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And you want people, and then you just want other people to understand that, and you want it to be
Yeah.
their world.
Yeah.
But the thing is it never will be. And I came to that realization. And so almost for me, it's better, because I know when I go and talk to my friends that aren't going through this, it's almost a break from talking about all of this.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with what the people you polled, what they said is just that I don't want to be the friend that's always talking about infertility. I don't want them to be like, oh gosh, we don't want to invite Blair because she's just going to talk about her treatments or talk about the bad news or talk about her bad luck or whatever it is. So that's why I have all of you.
Yeah,
Because
amazing.
we get each other, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I wish I had known about this at the time. I just had no idea. And I think so many people
I
don't know.
know.
Do you feel like friends and things like, do friends follow your account and say, wow, I had no idea you were going through that, or you were doing this, or it was that hardcore?
They do. And it's funny because I have I have a handful of friends who follow me that aren't going through any fertility struggles, that follow me religiously.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, and it's almost like we've gotten to a point in our friendship where I'm like, look, I don't want to inundate you with
Yeah,
updates on my
yeah,
fertility journey. If
yeah.
you want to know what's going on, you can ask me or you can go to my Instagram. Because there for a while, I felt like, you know, anytime we would check in with each other, there was always some fertility news. And so, but I just kind of like, I just thought to myself, would I really want to hear about that all the time? It's kind of depressing. I don't understand it, you know, like, or, you know, or I wouldn't understand it if I was in their shoes. So yeah, I mean, but I do have a lot of friends who do follow me because I know they do because they watch my stories, and all the times they won't. They'll
Yeah.
see good news and they'll be like, oh my gosh, that's so great. And then, you know, like on big milestone days, like retrieval or transfer or something like that, I'll get like, we'll actually be texting. But I do think it's nice to separate yourself a little
Definitely.
bit, because the longer you get into your journey, the more you don't want to feel, you don't want your support system, like your family and friends that live in the same
Mm-hmm.
town as you and that you're super close with and see all the time, to feel inundated. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And the same, I think, goes if you're in if you've got a partner. I think the same for that as well. Like, it can be so easy to be the only thing that is all encompassing in your relationship, and it's all you talk
Yeah.
about. So sometimes things like this community can be a bit of
Yeah.
relief from that, to talk to someone else and to not make that the only thing that's happening in your relationship.
Totally. And I found that, you know, my husband and I see a like a reproductive infertility therapist. And like, we know this is like a designated space to have a really tough conversation surrounding this topic. But otherwise, I mean, and of course we talk about treatments and stuff when he's giving me shots or whatever, but we really try to limit how much we talk about it. And we try to do stuff like cook dinner, watch shows, like go to a
Mm-hmm.
friend's house, go to the movies, like go into, like, it's very hard to not just talk about it all the time, because that's what you're thinking about all the time. Let's be honest.
Yeah, yeah,
But
totally.
again, like to your point, that's what this community is so good for, is, you know, for the majority of us are women who are thinking about it all the time, and rightfully so, because we undergo 90% of the treatments, right? I'm just making up that number, but it's probably something like that. And so it's just natural that it's on our mind more than it is
Mm-hmm.
if you're with a male partner.
Mm-hmm.
So but yeah, and I think too, like, these women in this community are so uplifting. So like, we're supposed to be talking about positivity, right? I mean, I can always, like, on my shittiest of days, come on here. I can be as raw and real as I want on my Instagram, and there's always people building me up.
Brilliant.
And, you know, and then just people that send me messages saying, thank you for sharing X and X about your journey. Like, it really helped me. Like, that is what makes me so positive, and like, you know, gives me like perseverance and determination and hope and everything to like press on in my own journey, but also in like what I'm doing with Fab Fertility too.
Mm-hmm. 100%. So it's been going on for 3 years, you said. So how have you learnt to cope with those really difficult times and move on to the stage that you're at now, and then most recently cope with the hold up with COVID?
So the answer to the first question is, I used to think every bit of bad news was the end of the world. And I am so used to immediate gratification. Like, that's the world we live in, right? You study hard, you make a good grade.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
work hard, you get into a good program, you know, learn how to interview well, do well in college or university, and you get a good job.
Yeah.
you know,
You can
it's just
control it
almost
all.
like, right. It's yes. So relinquishing control was number one. And that
Yeah.
took a long time.
Yeah.
And then I think second, realizing that no matter what happens, we will have children some way, somehow,
Mm-hmm.
really helps, right? I mean, whether that's drastic measures years down the road, or whether we're able to have our own biological child, we will have children.
Mm-hmm.
And having those conversations, though, like, we weren't always willing to talk about that. Like, in the beginning, when you just think it's going to happen for you, neither one of you are willing to even say the word donor or adoption, or it's very hard. It's an evolution of emotion. And I think that once we finally got to that point where we're like, okay, clearly this is a marathon for us, not a sprint. And, but at the end of the day, like, we will have children. That gave me such a sense of relief, and that's helped me cope a lot. And then with COVID, for me, actually, we were going to take a break. We did a retrieval in February, and we were going to take a break for March and April anyway, because we were supposed to go on a trip in April. And so we weren't going to pick up until May. So for me,
Did you switch clinics? I remember you posting something about that, or were you thinking about switching clinics?
Oh, so we switched clinics after our second round of IVF in August of 19.
Right.
We've done 2 cycles with our current, but then yes, we had done some consults. And we did a phone consult in Colorado and also in LA. That is when we thought that my AMH was dropping, and we were still getting no embryos. And so we were like, okay, we might need to throw a Hail Mary here and go do something crazy out of state. But turns out my AMH is actually fine. And so we don't feel super pressured anymore. So that was kind of a relief. So for my clinic only closed, my personal clinic only closed for 2 weeks. And it was a time when we were on a break anyway. So for me, luckily, it hasn't affected me, other than I have to wear a mask when I go in for my appointments, and I have to get my temperature taken, and my husband can't go in with me. Other than that, it's business as usual. I'm one of the lucky ones. I realize that. You know, I talked to so many people over in the UK, Australia, the States, and Canada that have been put on hold, and
so hard.
Yeah, I mean, people making hard decisions, like having to switch clinics, transfer embryos. I mean, it's a nightmare, really.
Yeah, and the added pressure of, you know, AMH dropping, that kind of thing. Just like an added uncertainty you don't need a dollar pop on top of what is already the most difficult situation.
Yeah, right.
Well, thank you so much for sharing all of that. And
of course.
Your tips are brilliant. I don't know if anyone who's watching has any other things that they found really useful, but the community is definitely one. You make lots of videos and things like that. Do you tend to document things so that, you know, when you do have your family, you may have a scrapbook so you can, not that you want to look back at this time, but say, hey, this is the journey we went on to have you?
You know what's funny is I haven't really started documenting video wise until like a little bit of last cycle and this cycle. And, you know, I kind of have a thought of piecing together all of my videos for one cycle to kind of put, you know, what this is the whole journey kind of thing. But really it's been in reaction to people wanting videos. Like I've put a couple videos out there just to see, like, you know, one, it feels good to talk it out, whether it's typing to somebody on a DM or just talking to yourself in your iPhone, it feels good. And then I've posted a couple, and I've actually really enjoyed watching people talk about their journey. And so I thought, well, I'll give it a try. And then people are like, oh my gosh, this is so helpful. Like, keep doing it. So I was like, okay. So,
definitely helpful.
You know, I try to do what everyone is appreciating and what everyone is learning from. So yeah.
Amazing. Does anyone have any questions whilst we're on here? I don't know. But I think you've covered quite a lot, so thank you. But what about, the last thing I was going to ask you was, what about difficult times, which obviously over 3 years you will have come across, like Christmas and Thanksgiving and baby showers and things like that? How do you deal with those festivities in normal life?
So I feel like for me, it seems situational. Like if I have gone through something really hard on my journey around a holiday, it is harder,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if I'm kind of writing some good news, I feel okay. And I think that's how it is for everybody. I feel like there's a lot more pressure or a lot more attention towards this, like, what we don't have around Mother's Day, maybe around Christmas when you're getting a bunch of Christmas cards with baby
Mm-hmm.
photos and whatnot. And so that's really rough for me. I like this year, I would not open Christmas cards until I was having like a really good day.
Okay.
And I would just be like, you know what? I'm just going to open these all today and hope I'm not triggered by all
Mm-hmm.
these cute babies.
Mm-hmm.
Or like on Mother's Day, I did not get on Facebook. I did not get on my personal Instagram. I like literally filled my entire day with talking to people like that are on here,
Right.
doing little like Zooms and whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that for everyone listening, I hope that you give yourself permission to set boundaries because it can be really tough.
Mm-hmm.
Like the baby showers, especially, we're all, I'm assuming around like the same age within a decade of each other, probably on here. And, I've hosted a couple baby showers going through my infertility journey. I've gone to a couple, and you don't have to, like for me, I hosted one, but I only did the invitations.
Okay.
I did a really small job.
Yeah.
um when I went to a baby shower, I went for like 30 minutes. I think that you can say, and you don't even have to go at all. I mean, I've talked about this on one of my podcasts. Like you do not have to make excuses for yourself. You're going through
Mm-hmm.
something hard. It's okay. But I one thing I will say is for people who would rather be included than not included, I think if you do have friends that are pregnant, you have to be, I've always thought honesty is the best, being upfront, being transparent. And I've always said, I'm so happy for you. I want to be included in everything that you're doing. You have a baby shower, you have a baptism, you have whatever, I want to be included. First birthday party. But
Leave
please
me out
know
of
that,
this. Yeah.
but yeah, don't leave me out. But if I don't come, I want you to know I appreciate it more than you know, but I'm just having a really hard time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have I ever not gone? I think maybe once. But it's good to be honest and upfront with your
Mm-hmm.
friends. But you don't want to be the friend that your friends isolate from their children because you're going through infertility. I mean, maybe you do. I don't. So for me, I'm always like, listen, please include me. It would mean the world to me. I don't want to feel even
Yeah.
more isolated. But, if I don't come, I will let you know I'm just having a bad day, kind of thing.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
Have you felt that sometimes some friends have not told you if they're pregnant and things like that because they're worried that it might trigger you?
No. It's almost been the opposite. It's almost been like they feel like they have to call me and tell me first. Like
Really?
I've had a lot of friends call and be like, "Hey, I know this news sucks to hear, but I wanted to tell you anyway." And it's almost like they're apologizing for being pregnant. And I'm like,
Right.
"Listen,
Yeah.
you don't have to do that."
Yeah.
But
Oh.
I think it's really sweet. Like, luckily in my life, I have so many people that are sensitive to what I'm going through. And I really do think it's because I'm so open. I
Mm-hmm.
think people get blindsided a lot of time with pregnancy announcements when they're not open with
Mm-hmm.
their journey.
Yeah.
So it's like I don't know, it's kind of like you have to weigh, someone asked me up
About
here.
finances.
hmm
Are you
um,
finding that that's putting a strain in a relationship? Is it kind of like every setback's kind of, dollar bills ticking again?
so I, first have to recognize like my husband and I live in an awesome city with an awesome economy. We're in an awesome industry. So we've been really like blessed to be able to afford our treatments. But with each treatment that goes on, especially with COVID's affecting the economy just across the board. Yeah, it's making us a little nervous. However, I mean, it's not Not really. I mean, we have made this a priority, and it's like our number one priority. We had to put off buying our home because of all of our treatments. We were finally able to buy it not that long ago, which, you know, but we would have liked to buy it like 2 years ago. So there are things.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to redo my kitchen, but I can't because we're prioritizing this. So like, I think you just have to prioritize and not get bitter about it and not take it out on the one you love, right?
Absolutely.
But
or
no,
not resent friends because they got pregnant naturally and they didn't have to spend this money, and it's kind of like, this is not fair.
Yeah, right.
Hard.
Right. And I mean, and I, like I said, I recognize that there's so many people that are in, you know, that are in a really tough spot financially. And that's one huge reason why, you know, I co-founded Fertility Rally with my friend Ali Prado. And that is one of the things we're about to roll out a membership. And that's one of the main things that we want to do is be able to connect people with financial resources to try to help. And there's, you know, there's so many grants out there, especially right now. I think Baby Quest in the States.
I'm speaking to them on Thursday.
Yeah, I saw that.
On a live, so that people in the States can find out more information about their upcoming grants. Yeah,
so their new grant is a resumption grant, so like treatment resumption. There's so many groups like that, and I just couldn't like speak more highly of people that are doing that for this community. So, you know, we want to be connectors for people. Eventually, that's what we're working on. So,
amazing. This is all so helpful. Thank you so much, Blair. It's always such a pleasure to speak to you. Love seeing your face, and I think everyone's found this useful. So thank you everyone for joining. Wishing you, you know, the best with the cycle that you're on now.
Thank you.
And everything crossed that something is going to change very soon.
Thank you. And I want to tell everyone on here, I forget what number episode URLs your interview on Fab Fertility.
Maybe I feel like it's 13, but it may not be. I feel like it's my birthday, but it may not be.
It's one of the early ones.
Abroad.
Yeah,
I have my treatment in the States. I have my treatment in the States, so
yeah, that's right. But anyway, like Elle's story is one of the craziest ones that I've heard still. And I've done so many interviews since you. Yes. So y'all go over to Fab Fertility on iTunes, Spotify, whatever, and look for my interview with Els. So it's awesome.
And for those of you who are concerned about money, join my live on Thursday with Pamela from Baby Quest Foundation. And also, find out what Blair's got coming up with Fab Fertility.
Yes. Thank you all.
Bye, everyone. Thanks, Blair.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bye.